I go to the University of Waterloo. I think, so for engineering itself, it has a really good co-op program. That probably is what distinguished it between University of Waterloo and then other universities. So we have 6 co-op terms within the span of our program, and it's a 5-year program. So throughout the years, I'm going into my final year. I don't know if that was a follow-up question, but so I'm just finishing my 6th work term. So I worked at 6 different companies, and my trajectory of what I thought I would want to do with the program has completely changed. So the only way to really figure that out was co-op. So probably co-op was number 1, and then number 2 was like it just has a reputation for being really innovative and entrepreneurial, and there's always new things happening at Waterloo. High schools really put an emphasis, high schools and society put an emphasis on university, but I think that students should really take a step back and look into colleges as well. I personally always considered university, but I know for engineering, college is a really good option too, because the two is a lot more hands-on. So if you're someone who doesn't really like the book side of school, but really likes the hands-on and learning with experience, I would actually recommend college is a great option. My transition was interesting because I graduated in 2020, so my transition in first year was all online. It's definitely a big transition in that it's a lot more independent and you have a lot more responsibility on yourself to keep up with the schoolwork and to do the research on your own and to make sure you're keeping up to date with deadlines and all of that. But in a way, university is really nice because you can do that and you're on your own timeline and you learn how to learn best, if that makes sense, and what works for you and what study habits work for you, because if you don't, then you'll see the repercussions. So yeah, I would say that the transition is not as daunting as they make it out to seem. I'm studying biomedical engineering. I actually had a really hard time deciding what program. Well, I had a really hard time deciding which stream and then let alone what program. So in terms of engineering, I didn't really know a lot about engineering, but I realized that I really liked all 3 streams of science. So I really liked physics, really liked chemistry and biology, and then I also really liked math. So I was trying to figure out how I could combine all of those together, and engineering is pretty much a way that you can combine all of those technical skills and then apply it to real life. So I really like the application part. So that's why I chose engineering. And then biomedical specifically, I just really liked that all of the problems I would be solving in biomedical engineering could apply to anybody, because we all, like, health is important to everyone and it always will be important. So it was kind of a blend of all of my interests, and yeah. The first couple years, the first probably 2 or 3 years, you have more foundational engineering topics. So things like circuits or software or fluid mechanics or stress and strain, things like that. And then in the upper years, you're able to apply the foundations a little bit more. So in my case, we apply all of the mechanics and math and everything that you learned to the human body and to systems in the human body. So one example, it would be just comparing different engineerings, that in mechanical engineering, you might apply fluid dynamics within a pipe, but in biomedical engineering, you would apply it within the veins of the body. I would definitely recommend the program to somebody who is definitely interested in the biomedical field. So by that, and this is my honest experience, it could change depending on what you're interested in, but I really like the biomedical field, but I don't necessarily want to work in healthcare. So looking back, I probably wouldn't have chosen biomedical engineering. I would have chosen systems design engineering at Waterloo, because it's a lot more broad, and it can be applied to any industry, whether it's business or infrastructure or software or biomedical, whereas biomedical is very niche. So I think my advice to someone who would like to go into biomedical engineering would be just make sure you understand that it's a very niche program, and that it's not going to pigeonhole yourself into the biomedical field, but it is very much, you'll become an expert in things like prosthetics and biomedical research and healthcare products and software like that. But you won't get as much exposure to other industries like you would in a more general engineering. I am not probably going to work in the biomedical field. I am going towards the product management field. So that's very common in engineering, because you kind of act as the bridge between the engineering and the software team and then the business side. So you know how the product is created and what it needs to do, and you kind of act as the communication between them. So that can be applied in many different industries. So either that, or I would love to start my own business, because a lot of engineers end up starting their own business because they want to solve a problem and they don't necessarily want to work for people. So I would say just whenever you get stressed, so I'll speak from engineering students at Waterloo it is a very stressful program at times. So it's very easy to get stressed and overwhelmed. I would say take a step back, because in fourth year, looking at my first year self, I was way too stressed out, and I cared I don't want to say I cared too much about my grades, but I cared too much about my grades, because you realize that the amount of stress between 10% of a grade difference, you shouldn't compromise doing things with your friends and joining a club or a design team, or just doing other things that bring enjoyment in your life than your grades. So I would say that. I would also say that the people that you meet in university are going to be what you remember the most. Well, you should remember your courses as well, but when you look back, you're not going to wish that you spent okay, I hesitate saying this for advice for high school students, because I'm not saying that you shouldn't study, but what I'm saying is I would definitely invest in the relationships that you build in university, because they can be really strong friendships, and they also will really help you throughout university. Like, you can't get through it alone, whether it's social or with like tutoring and help, group projects, all of that. So I would invest in your relationships.